Hey, AP scholars, sorry I can't be there today. I'm at home with a cold, but we're gonna continue on with what we're supposed to be starting today, which is arrays, and this is well-trodden territory for several of you, many of you in the class. So I hope you find it relatively straightforward. For those of you who are new to the class, definitely check out the chapter on arrays in the textbook if you are feeling lost, because it's not new. This is not new to you, or sorry, this is all new to you. This is not review at all. So definitely take steps to you know rectify the shortcomings of this lesson, because it's really a review lesson for most people, because that's what most people need. So let's get started. Arrays are essentially making super variables that can store many values and just kind of refer to a single identifier, and then have many kind of compartments within that identifier variable. So, for example, if you want to store like a million numbers, you wouldn't want to have to make a million variables. That would be extraordinarily annoying. So instead, we make an array with a million spaces inside of it. The technical term which refers to an element. So we make a single array with a million elements, and we can store whatever it is we want inside of there. So that's the story with arrays. Here's the beginning of syntax. Here's how you make an array. This is an array called numbers, and it stores integers. This looks awfully similar to just a typical sort of, int and kind of declaration. So what makes it an array is the square brackets, which are just beside the letter P. Where you normally type braces, this is where you get square brackets. The technical term for the square things are actually brackets. So these are actual brackets. These are braces. These are brackets. These are parentheses. Yes, knowledge obtained. So that's exciting. So this says it's an integer array. It's called numbers. So that's what we're doing. This is kind of inside of this comment here indicates what's going on in the computer's memory. This has created a null pointer. So the identifier numbers right now has no array attached to it. It is just a null pointer, or sort of an empty hook waiting for us to hang an array onto this hook here. So this is what we start off as. This is a null pointer, and many of us have experienced the null pointer exception, which has derailed many a processing project. So to be the same sort of problems will be here. So what's next? Watch this. I'm gonna just bring this up. Well, I didn't want to get too excited with this just yet. And I've left this there. They're gonna just delete that. Wow. Okay, great. So the next step in making an array is you need to use the new keyword. The new keyword is what changes a null pointer into a pointer that points to something useful. And when you use the new keyword, you would just say like the array numbers equals new, and then the type of thing, and then in square brackets you type in how many elements you want to have in your array. So if I type in 6 here, I make an array with 6 elements. This little comment here sort of is a diagram showing you what has been created. So numbers now refers to an array. It actually has an array, no longer a null pointer, with 6 different elements. And then on the bottom here, I've indicated the indexes of these elements. So you can refer to these elements separately by their index. Same sort of idea when you have sort of a house number, right? There's the street and the house number. There's 2 separate things. The numbers here is the name of the variable. It's like what street this data lives on. And then the indexes are sort of like your specific house number to say, which house on that street is it. Same sort of idea here. So this is what we've accomplished so far. Integers, by the way, their default value is 0, so inside of here are going to be all zeros. I've left them blank for now because it'll get confusing if I share them, but that is something we have to keep track of. The index is not the value, The value is what we're going to store inside of the element, and the index refers to which element. So let's assign some values. If I wanted to say add a number into the first element number 0, or index 0, I can refer to that element by using the name of the array, and then the square brackets, and the index numbers sub 0 is how this is pronounced. It's pronounced sub, for whatever reason. And Mortal Kombat fans always enjoy the fact that this is sub 0. So enjoy that if you are a Mortal Kombat fan. So now I can actually assign a value here. I can say it's equal to 99. So what does that do? Well, it looks for which array. So that's numbers, and which element is it? Well, number 0. So that's this one, and we're going to assign it the value 99. So there we go. 99 gets inserted into element 0. I could also say, hey, numbers sub 5. That equals 12 now. So over here in element sub 5, I can type in a 12, and that's sort of the new state of the array. We're updating the specific elements that are inside of here according to their indices. Just gotta space this out a bit more to make to make these indices line up a bit better. Okay, so that's basically arrays, and there's the code I already planned out. So we are going to be doing some coding back questions, so you might not have to do some of this stuff for some of the questions. You just have to work with the arrays. So for array 1, which is what we're doing, this type of thing is probably the most important stuff to worry about. So for example, in coding bat, I'll just move down. You'll probably have questions where it's like, Boolean, public Boolean, some name of the question like array thing, and then you'll have an array sent as a parameter. So int or something. I forget what they usually call them. So you're not gonna have to define what this array is. You don't have to use the new keyword. It's gonna come in as a non-null pointer. It's going to have however many things in it that it has. So that's great. That means less work, but at the same time, you're like, well, how long is it? How many elements should I be looking for? Especially if they ask you to find, say, the last element, because you're like, well, what is the index of the last element? I don't know how many things are in here. So that's easy, just like strings, right? You can find out the length of a string. You can find out the length of an array. And oddly enough, it's not a method. You don't type in the parens at the end. It's actually a variable that is contained within the array that keeps track of the length. So it's different than strings. Annoyingly so. Very annoyingly so. On the AP exam, if you mess this up, or in any of my paper exams, that I won't take marks off for that. And obviously it's just a memorization thing. For the compiler, though, it's not going to like it if you type in .length. So yeah, just be aware. That's how you find out the length. More annoyingly so, what is the length of our example array? Like if we're looking at this example array here, what is the length of it? Well, there's 6 elements, so the length is 6. So if I was sending it numbers, that would be length 6. But what's the last element? Well, the last element is 5 because we start counting from 0. So that's quite annoying. So if you wanted to find the last element, I can refer to its its element number by putting in the brackets. So what is it going to be? Well, ar.length minus 1. So that's mean minus 1. So if I want to access the last element of any array that has I guess at least one element in it, then this would be the way to do it. So there you go. There's lots to know. I'll just take you to CodingBat. Codingbat.com. And try to log in. So we're going to be doing the array 1 problems. Some of you have already done the array 1, some of the array 1 problems anyways. And that's great because, that's going to give you some advantage over other people. But we're going to be doing the middle column here, so starting with same first last and going down to make 2. This whole middle column is going to be assigned for you guys to do. And hey, if that was my explanation was not sufficient for you, if you're having troubles on the questions, then there is kind of a built-in array stuff here. Look, it's down here, Java arrays and loops. You can click on the code help, and it has much prettier diagrams than I had, so you're welcome to read this over. But basically, hey, look, it's telling you the same things I was just telling you about. And you know, sometimes it's just helpful to see it in multiple places. Hey, look, it's kind of the same thing. There it is, and shows you sort of the array going on. You can stop before we get to loops. We're going to use loops for sure with arrays, but today not so much. We're just going to get used to these this new syntax, which is strange, strange looking brackets and all that new keyword and all that kind of syntax that might be foreign to you. So that's the story there, folks. I hope you have a great time doing array 1, middle column. That's going to be due for next class. We're going to move on to array 2 afterwards. Okay, thanks everybody.